USA tennis star Frances Tiafoe wins hearts with his passion, power, and perseverance. True fans admire his inspiring journey, vibrant energy, and deep connection to the game, making him more than an athlete, but a symbol of hope. In the quiet town of College Park, Maryland, where the air had the sweet scent of blooming magnolias, a young boy named Deshaun practiced his serve on the local tennis courts. His racket was a hand-me-down from his older sister, its grip worn smooth by the palms of many hopefuls before him. The cracked asphalt was his canvas, the chain-link fence his audience. Each swing of his arm was a declaration of intent, a silent promise to one day escape the confines of his neighborhood and make a name for himself in the world of tennis. Deshaun had heard whispers of a prodigy, a boy named Frances Tiafoe, who had risen from the same public courts to become a star on the professional circuit. His heart swelled with admiration and a touch of envy. He knew that Tiafoe's journey had been fraught with challenges, much like his own. But where Tiafoe had found success, Deshaun had found only the relentless echo of a ball against a wall. He watched Tiafoe's matches whenever he could, studying the precision of his strokes, the grace of his movement, and the fierce determination that set him apart. One scorching summer afternoon, as sweat dripped from his brow, a shadow fell across Deshaun's service line. He looked up to find Tiafoe standing there, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "You've got potential, kid," he said, his voice deep and resonant, "but you need to believe in yourself more." Deshaun's eyes widened in disbelief. He had never expected to meet his idol in person, much less receive a compliment from him. "How did you?" Tiafoe chuckled. "Your passion is written all over your face, kid. Plus, I never forget where I come from." He gestured to the courts. "These are the same ones that shaped me into who I am today. I had to fight for every inch of this success, and I can see that same fire in you." Deshaun felt a mix of shock and excitement. He had always dreamed of playing against the best, but he had never thought that the best would take notice of him. Do you think I could make it too?" Tiafoe leaned against the fence, his gaze assessing the younger player. "It's not about what I think, it's about what you're willing to do." He paused, his eyes searching Deshaun's. "You've got to eat, sleep, and breathe tennis. There'll be days you want to quit, but you can't. You have to push through the pain, the doubt, and keep going." Deshaun nodded, his grip tightening around the worn handle of his racket. "I'll do it," he said firmly. Tiafoe's smile grew. "Good. I'm going to be watching you. And when you're ready, maybe we can have a little match." He tossed Deshaun a bottle of water. "Keep that fire burning, and who knows, we might just share a court at the US Open one day." The months that followed were a blur of early mornings and late nights for Deshaun. He threw himself into his training, his dedication fueled by Tiafoe's words. He practiced until his muscles screamed and his hands bled. The local coach, Mr. Jenkins, took notice and began to mentor him, seeing the raw talent that Tiafoe had glimpsed. The sound of the ball on racket grew sweeter with every hit, and Deshaun's dream felt closer than ever. One day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in fiery hues, Deshaun received a call from Tiafoe's manager. The pro was in town for a tournament and wanted to meet up for a practice session. Deshaun's heart raced. This was his chance to prove himself, to show that he had the grit to make it in the cutthroat world of professional tennis. The next morning, Deshaun found himself on the gleaming courts of the nearby country club, his worn-out sneakers stark against the pristine green surface. Tiafoe was already there, warming up with a grace that seemed almost supernatural. Deshaun took a deep breath, trying to ignore the flutter in his stomach as he approached. "Ready?" Tiafoe called out, his eyes glinting with the same competitive spirit Deshaun had seen on TV. Deshaun nodded, his throat dry. "Ready," he echoed, feeling the weight of the moment. The match began, and Deshaun's nerves got the better of him at first. His shots were wild, his movements erratic. But as the minutes ticked by, something shifted. The rhythm of the game began to resonate with his soul. He found his groove, his body moving instinctively as he returned volley after volley. Sweat beaded on his brow, but he didn't let it deter him. With each point scored, Tiafoe's nods of approval grew more frequent, and Deshaun's confidence grew stronger. The practice session stretched on, the air thick with the scent of grass and the thwack of rackets. Tiafoe pushed him hard, but Deshaun met each challenge with renewed vigor. His strokes grew more precise, his footwork more nimble. For the first time, he could feel the beginnings of a real connection with the sport that had consumed his every waking moment. As they took a break, Tiafoe clapped him on the back. "You're coming along, kid. Keep pushing, and you might just make it." Deshaun's chest swelled with pride. The words of his idol echoed in his ears, a promise of what could be. He knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with obstacles, but with Tiafoe's belief in him, he felt unstoppable. He took a swig from the bottle Tiafoe had given him, the cool liquid a reminder of the promise they had shared. The sun set, casting long shadows across the court. but Deshawn's dream burned brighter than ever. Days turned into weeks, and Deshawn's skills grew by leaps and bounds. Mr. Jenkins' coaching grew more intense, pushing him to his limits and beyond. His friends and family watched in amazement as he transformed from a scrappy street player to a strategic force on the court. His name began to spread through the local tennis community, and soon, he was invited to play in small tournaments, his talent undeniable. But with each victory, Deshawn felt the pressure mounting. The whispers of the next Tiafoe grew louder, and the expectations weighed heavy on his shoulders. Doubt began to creep in, whispering that he wasn't good enough, that he was living in a fairy tale that would soon crumble to dust. One evening, as he sat on the edge of his bed, staring at the fading light through the blinds, the phone rang. It was Tiafoe, checking in on his progress. "How's it going, champ?" Deshawn took a deep breath. "It's hard," he admitted. "I'm trying, but sometimes I don't know if I can do this." Tiafoe's voice was firm but kind. "You're not alone, Deshawn. Everyone feels that way at some point. It's what separates the winners from the ones who give up. Remember why you started playing. Remember the joy it brought you. That's what will keep you going." The conversation lingered in Deshawn's mind as he laced up his shoes and headed to the courts the next morning. He took his place on the baseline, the sun rising behind him, casting him in an orange glow. The ball was tossed into the air, and as he swung his racket, he thought of the little boy he once was, serving against the wall, dreaming of greatness. The match that followed was a battle of wills, each player giving their all. Tiafoe didn't hold back, pushing Deshawn to the brink of his abilities. But Deshawn had come too far to quit now. He dug deep, his muscles screaming, his lungs burning. He returned serve after serve, each one a declaration of his resolve. As the final point was scored, Deshawn collapsed to the ground, his body spent but his spirit soaring. Tiafoe offered a hand, pulling him to his feet. "You've got heart, kid," he said, "and that's something you can't teach." The two stood there, panting and grinning, the promise of the future stretching out before them. Deshawn knew that he had much to learn, but he also knew that with hard work and determination, he could carve out his own path in the world of tennis. The fire Tiafoe had seen in him had become a bonfire, and it was only a matter of time before the world took notice. As the tournament approached, Deshawn's nerves grew more intense. He could feel the eyes of the town upon him, expecting him to live up to the hype. But he had Tiafoe's words to guide him, the knowledge that even his idol had faced moments of doubt. The day of the final match dawned, and Deshawn found himself standing across from his toughest opponent yet, a boy from the wealthier side of town who had been groomed for greatness since the cradle. The match was a seesaw of power and finesse, each player vying for dominance. The crowd was on the edge of their seats, the tension palpable as the score remained tight. Deshawn's heart hammered in his chest, but he didn't let it distract him. He focused on the ball, the sound of his sneakers on the court, the rhythm of his breathing. It was just him and the game, the way it had always been. As the final set grew near, Deshawn felt something change within him. A quiet resolve took hold, and he played with a newfound confidence. His shots grew stronger, his movements more precise. The crowd roared as he won point after point, each victory a testament to his unyielding spirit. And when the last ball dropped on his opponent's side of the net, he threw his racket into the air, the roar of the crowd drowning out his own triumphant cry. Tiafoe, who had been watching from the sidelines, made his way to the net to congratulate the new champion. "You did it," he said, his eyes gleaming with pride. "You never gave up, and you never lost sight of why you play." Deshawn grinned, his chest heaving with exertion. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "For everything." Tiafoe clapped him on the back. "It's not me you have to thank," he said. "It's you. You're the one who put in the work. Now go on, enjoy this moment. You've earned it." And so Deshawn did. He basked in the glory of victory, the applause of the crowd washing over him like a warm summer rain. But even as he reveled in the present, his eyes remained fixed on the horizon, for he knew that this was just the beginning of his journey, and that there were many more battles to be won, many more courts to conquer. And with Tiafoe by his side, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The days grew shorter, the nights colder, and Deshawn's training intensified. He began to travel, playing in tournaments across the state, then the country, his name gaining recognition in the wider tennis world. Yet, he never forgot his roots, returning to College Park whenever he could to practice on the cracked asphalt that had been his first love. The town watched him go, cheering him on, knowing that one day he would make them all proud. And as he stood on the brink of his first Grand Slam, the memories of his past filled his heart. The early mornings, the late nights, the blood, sweat, and tears that had brought him to this moment. He took a deep breath, his eyes finding Tiafoe in the stands, that same knowing smile on his face. Deshawn nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle over him. He was ready. ready to show the world what a kid from College Park could do. The match was an epic battle, each point a symphony of skill and endurance. The crowd held its breath, every spectator leaning forward in their seat. Deshaun felt the weight of their anticipation, but instead of crushing him, it propelled him. He played with a passion that was raw and unbridled, each swing of his racket a love letter to the sport that had saved him. As he served for the championship, his heart pounded in his chest. The crowd was a blur, the world around him fading to nothing but the line of the net and the thud of the ball. His serve was perfect, an untouchable rocket that kissed the corner and left his opponent flailing. The crowd erupted in a roar, and Deshaun threw his racket into the air, his face a mask of disbelief and joy. He had done it. He had become a champion. He had proven to himself, to Tiafoe, to his town, that dreams didn't have to stay dreams. They could become reality if you were willing to fight for them. As he hugged Tiafoe, who had rushed to the court to congratulate him, Deshaun felt the warm embrace of destiny. This was only the beginning. The whirlwind of interviews and press conferences that followed were overwhelming, but Deshaun handled it with poise, always remembering to thank Tiafoe for believing in him. The older player's influence was clear. Deshaun's humility and determination had won over not just the crowd but the hearts of tennis fans worldwide. His story of rising from the streets of College Park to the grandest stage in tennis was one of perseverance and hope. The night after his victory, as Deshaun lay in his hotel room, staring at the ceiling, he thought about the road ahead. He knew that with great success came great responsibility. He had to be more than just a good player. He had to be an inspiration to those who looked up to him. And so, he made a vow to use his newfound platform to give back to his community, to help other kids like him find their way out of the shadows. The following year, Deshaun's career skyrocketed. He competed in tournaments around the globe, facing the best players the world had to offer. Each match was a learning experience, a chance to grow and hone his skills. But no matter where he went, he never forgot the lessons Tiafoe had taught him. To keep pushing, to stay humble, and to always keep the fire burning within. Their friendship grew stronger as the seasons changed. Tiafoe had become a mentor, a confidant, and a role model. Deshaun watched and learned, not just from his idol's successes but also from his defeats. Each loss was a stepping stone to the next victory, a reminder that even stars had to fall before they could rise again. And when the time came for the US Open, Deshaun felt ready. The grand stage was set, and the boy who had once dreamed of playing alongside Tiafoe was now poised to share it with him. The match was a spectacle, a dance of power and finesse. The crowd was electric, their cheers resonating through the stadium. As the final point was played out, Deshaun's heart raced, his body taut with anticipation. The ball soared through the air, a silent prayer to the gods of tennis. And when it landed, a winner on his opponent's side, the crowd erupted into a standing ovation. He had lost, but in his heart, he knew he had won so much more. He turned to Tiafoe, his eyes filled with gratitude. The older player clapped him on the back, a proud smile on his face. "You've come a long way, kid," he said. "But remember, this is just the start." Deshaun nodded, his eyes never leaving the net. He had come a long way from the cracked asphalt courts of College Park, but he knew that the journey was far from over. There were more matches to win, more hearts to inspire. And with Tiafoe by his side, the future looked as bright as the gleaming trophy that now sat just out of reach. The bond between the two grew stronger, their shared love of the game a bond that transcended competition. They pushed each other, supported each other, and grew together. And as they continued to make history on the courts, the world watched in awe, knowing that they were witnessing the rise of a new tennis legend, a boy who had turned the echo of his dreams into the thunderous applause of reality.